Hello, welcome to Child Abuse Awareness. Darlene J. Clark. Be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Child abuse, physical, sexual, child exploitation, neglect, abandonment. We are a one caring community. We share personal stories. We share facts. We share a lot of different things in here to try to get the word out. Please like, subscribe, and share. Hit the bell to be notified when it does begin so that you'll be able to be here to see a live. As I always like to start off with a Bible verse in Matthew 18, verse 6. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and he were drowned in the depths of the sea. I will also say, Colossians 3:21, fathers, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged. And also you got to know, but take heed that ye despise not one of these little ones, for I say to you, that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. A lot of people say, I don't want to get involved or anything. Right here, it's a Bible verse that tells you you need to do right. Learn to do right. Seek justice. Defend the oppressed. Take out the cause of the fatherless. Plead the case of the widow. That means we got to speak up. We need to speak up. We need to be there for others. Hey there, Jackie. Good to see you. You just got the notification? Oh, okay. Hello. I hope y'all's doing well. So without further ado, we go with a copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is the use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. So this at the bottom of the page is you suspect child abuse, call the Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800 for a child or 1-800-422-4453 or go to www.childhelp.org. All calls are confidential. The hotline is available 24/7 in more than 170 languages. Y'all need to write that down. And as far as today, we're going over sexual abuse grooming. Call the National Sexual Abuse Hotline to talk to a trained staff member from your local sexual assault service provider. 1-800-656-HOPE. I'll let that scroll at the bottom of the page. Oh, you're quite welcome. I'm so glad that you're doing good. So today we're going over sexual abuse grooming, as I said. Thank you. I'm doing pretty good. Just got back from having to recertify for my apartment, so I didn't know how long it would take. So I was glad that it didn't take me to 3 p.m. So I could come on over here and do this. This is necessary to get these done. Instead of just talking about the topic of sex abuse, we're going to go ahead and get into the grooming. Okay. This is grooming. Know the warning signs. I need to make sure that I have The full page. I guess you've got to see the full page on the screen. Okay. One tool common to those who sexually abuse kids is grooming. It's manipulative behaviors that the abuser uses to gain access to a potential victim, to coerce them to agree to the abuse, and reduce the risk of being caught. Even if they agree to the abuse, does not mean that they asked for it, does not mean they want it. You are an adult. Do not do this to anybody. They do not deserve it. While these tactics are used most often against younger kids, teens, and vulnerable adults are also at risk. Yes, even adults. Grooming can take place online or in person. It's usually employed by a family member or someone else in the victim's circle of trust, such as a coach, a teacher, youth group leader, or others who naturally have some interaction with the victim. Though grooming can take many different forms, it also follows a similar pattern. Yeah, that's true. Trigger warning. Thank you so much for saying that about trigger warnings. Appreciate that. Victim selection. Abusers often observe possible victims and select them based on ease of access to them or their perceived vulnerability. People that's poor, that need money, people that the family's on drugs, anything like that. Um, I want to thank Jackie for showing me a video earlier where there was this little boy in Walmart and this guy, this grown adult man, went up and grabbed that little 4-year old boy's hand and said, "Come with me." I thank God that his sister was standing nearby and she stopped it. Gaining access and isolating the victim. Abusers will attempt to physically or emotionally separate a victim from those protecting them and often seek out positions in which they have contact with minors. See, that's what I mean. And then they also, like shopping inside a Walmart. And this perpetrator went up and did this to the minor. That's why you parents need to not let your kids run amok in a grocery store. You never know when there's going to be a monster lurking around. I'm glad the creed got caught also, or anything bad happened. Who's to say he hadn't done this before? I hate to say that there's probably other victims out there who he's done this to. Some other victims have probably been hurt in the processes. But to thank God for that help, for that boy not being hurt, right? You can if you want to, you can. Yes, it is sad. Trust development and keeping secrets. Abusers attempt to gain trust of a potential victim through gifts, attention, sharing secrets, and other means to make them feel that they have a caring relationship and to train them to keep the relationship secret. Okay, I could go to my email right quick if y'all want to see the video that I am speaking about. I don't like the fact it's showing my email, but it don't matter. Get this right here. Better out of the way. I don't know what's taking forever to load. Y'all see him? Watch out again. Look how closely he did. Watch very closely to what he did. Watch this. Come on, look how close the sister was. He did not care. That man, see, look at him. He's still standing there. Look at it. That jerk is still right there, like he's trying to cope so he don't get in trouble. You monster. You sorry piece of crap. And this was in Florida, January the 2nd. A Florida man has been arrested after he was caught allegedly trying to abduct a 4-year-old boy inside Walmart. Pablo Pintuelas Hernandez, 64, was charged with kidnapping and false imprisonment of a child after he was filmed allegedly grabbing the boy and trying to walk away with him at the store Lehigh Acres on December the 29th. And you can see the sister was real close still, and he still tried. He didn't care, did he? Lee County Sheriff's deputies viewed the footage and said the stranger walked up to the 4-year-old shopping with his family and grabbed his wrist. Penzuelas Hernandez allegedly stated, "Let's go," and tried to pull him away before a family member intervened. Cops worked with real-time intelligence center analysts to identify the suspect and arrested him in the early hours. Yeah, that was his sister. They said it was his sister, so I guess he got an older sister. I got some friends that I went to school with that, even though they were my age in school, they actually had some siblings that was in their 20s and 30s. It's like their parents had kids later on in life. Here is the jerk right there. There he is. There he is right here. Police identified Pablo Puentes Hernandez, pictured 64, as a charged him with kidnapping and false imprisonment of a child. Did you see how he just walked up and grabbed him? Even with family members being right there at the thing, he didn't even try to run. Oh man, that is scary as all get up. There is the link. She got it right there. If anybody wants to write that thing down or look in the comment section in this, and you're able to. Looks like adult. Yep. Unbelievable how he took the boys. They said he grabbed them by the wrist, too. Come on, let's go. I mean, excuse me? What kind of nerve? And then when she grabs and gets the kid back, he's still going back around the kid. Did you see that, yo? I would have loved to hear the conversation. What this perp was probably saying or still trying to, whatever. Whether it's trying to say, well, I was going to take him for an ice cream or something, or go get him a toy or something, but no. No, 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 no. No, but heck no. Wow. Scary as all get out. Exactly. And I'm wondering, when these other people standing around, why they didn't go ahead and hold him off and keep him in the store till the police got there. Whew. I bet it wasn't his first time either, because he seemed like he's experienced. Seems like that's what he does. Florida's a big hub for that too. Y'all, please be on the watch out, because this, oh man, is one of the perps that likes little boys. Sorry, pieces of crap. People ask me why I don't like Florida. I'm not going to down everybody in Florida. But a good deal of where my mom took me, trafficking me, was inside some restaurants in Florida. So yes, I don't like Florida. Yep. People's got where they don't like different states is because it's traumatic for them in them areas, and Florida is very traumatic to me. Okay. All right, see, and it's like gaining access and isolating the victim. He tried to isolate the victim, didn't he? By grabbing his hand, taking him away. I probably needed to go back and make sure because it looked like. Did that little boy grab a hold of the cart too? It looked like he was trying to fight about it and grabbed a hold of the cart. It is very insane. And it's insane how these sickos could look at a kid as being sexual, like that stupid guy that came into our live yesterday that said what he said. I don't care whether he's done it or not, for him to say what he said he did to his daughter. Sick. Trust development and keeping secrets. Abusers attempt to gain trust of a potential victim through gifts, attention, sharing secrets, and other means to make them feel that they may have a caring relationship and to train them to keep the relationship secret. I remember that little wink. That little wink made me feel a little special. That little wink. Desensitization to touch and discussion of sexual topics. Abusers will often start to touch a victim in ways that appear harmless, such as hugging, wrestling, and tickling, and later escalate to increasingly more sexual contact, such as massages or showering together. Abusers may also show the victim pornography or discuss sexual topics with them to introduce the idea of sexual conduct. Yes, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you reported him, man. He was horrible. Yeah, and the bad thing is, how far was he walking? How long had he been following that boy around when he got up the nerve to grab the boy? You know what I'm saying, y'all? How long was he scoping him out, so to say? How long was his eyes on that target? Attempt by abusers to make their behavior seem natural to avoid raising suspicions. For teens who may be closer in age to the abuser, it can be particularly hard to recognize tactics used in grooming. Be alert for signs that your teen has a relationship with an adult that includes secrecy. Ooh, undue influence of control or pushes personal boundaries. Oh, he bought me gas. Oh, this adult's taking me to go see his son, my friend. A lot of times that ain't what happens. A lot of times it's where he's doing something with a kid and paying the kid things he wants. Grooming behaviors are not only used to gain a victim's trust, but often are used to create a trustworthy image and relationship with their family and community. Child and teen sexual abusers are often charming, kind, and helpful, exactly the type of behavior we value in friends and acquaintances. That's why a lot of times people do not believe when we go to tell. They'll say, no, that person would never do that. That person was very friendly. That person was very nice. They know how to put on that wolf and sheep's clothing. You don't need to be suspicious of everyone who is kind to your child. Most people are well intentioned and trustworthy. But you should be on guard that this type of behavior is sometimes just a mirage, a way for an abuser to gain your trust so they have more direct access to your child and make it less likely that the child will be believed if they speak up about the abuse. Sorry, I get stuttered a little bit. You should also talk to your kids about risk and boundaries and make sure they know that they can come to you if anyone crosses a line. Do y'all ever get in the habit that sometimes when you're walking around Walmart, you see these little kids, and you see at times that the parent walks away from the buggy to get something off the line, get something off the shelf or something like that? You know how easy it is that somebody could all of a sudden grab that kid in that short little space? I got a habit a lot of times when I see that. I kind of follow the person around a little bit. One particular, uh, but I do usually let them know, hey, I'm an advocate for child abuse. I'm just making sure that while you're shopping, somebody else ain't going to come up to and grab. You know what I'm saying? So feel free to watch. I got eyes for watching. So I told her enjoy and shop. And it's kind of funny because they usually then start following me around the store. It's kind of funny. And then parents starts following me around the store with a kid, like, hey, stay with us. It's kind of funny. But we are to be their eyes and ears to make sure nothing happens to these kids we see in public or elsewhere. Online grooming often involves adults creating fake profiles and posing as children or teens in order to befriend someone and gain their trust. This may be the first step towards sexual abuse or online stalking or harassment. You can learn more from internetmatters.org about how grooming occurs and how you can make a minor in your life safer from it. You can also find out more about how to recognize more warning signs of online grooming. There's an app that we have for our kids for in school, right? It's basically not just of the 1% school, but it's in different schools. Did you know that even a predator can get on that app and say that they're a student and there was a person who had tested it and they were writing to some of the little kids, teenagers in the class. It was one of the parents and they were testing it to just see how safe the app was. In the processes of them claiming and fake profiles saying that they were in that school. 4 or 5 of the students from that class, even though this was an adult and not a student, is a fake profile. 4 or 5 of the students sent that person a friend's request. How many of these perpetrators are actually using that app? That's awesome. Our bucket list. That's awesome. How many others are using that app and writing to kids? So let's meet. It's scary. They need to do something with the programs that they have that they make the parents and the children use where they keep on top of the classes and stuff like that. We got to be able where nobody can end up getting into it. So we have to be aware of our surroundings when we are out and just checking people and children are fine and okay. Farming that. I see myself doing the same. You do that too? Yep. I like this one person before. They was trying to test us, and they said, "What would y'all do if y'all seen you're driving down the road, then all of a sudden you see this kid running in front of a grown man, and the man's chasing a little kid. What would y'all do?" What are y'all's thoughts? If you see this little kid being chased down the road by a grown man, are you going to keep driving? Um, some people had answered and said, we'll run over the daddy. We'll run over the guy. Somebody said, how do you know that's just not the daddy chasing after the kid? You know? Yeah, it could be just a boy and a father. Exactly. Well, I think I would go and I would keep an eye and watch and observe. You know what I'm saying? There was this guy in Huntsville, Alabama. They got a park there. They have bathrooms where people could use, and he had tried to grab several different boys who used the bathroom, and he went running out there with his pants down. He went running outside that park. Now that right there was too suspicious right there. Exactly. Yeah, I would watch and observe too. That's right. Somebody said, "Well, I will grab the child and run with him." It's like, but you might be charged with kidnapping because that could be his father, the parent. Then you go to jail for kidnapping. So it's pretty interesting, different people's take on it. You know what I'm saying? You got to not overreact and get yourself in trouble. Yeah, it is a weird judgment call. Rather than banning kids from going online, introduce more freedom as they get older, and make sure they are attuned to the risk and are comfortable talking to you about what they experience. As Michael Rich, Director of Center of Media and Child Health at Boston Children's Hospital, recently told the Wall Street Journal, the whole stranger danger movement did more to create anxiety in children than it did to protect them. If you turn everyone you don't know into a danger, you live in a pretty scary world. But really, you do have to worry when it's online. There's so many predators, much more than there are, just in our community. Read more and more from survivors and RAINN Speakers Bureau members about how they were groomed by predators and what parents should watch out for. Okay, here's how to help. You can help keep kids and teens safer by learning the warning signs at rain.org. To report sexual abuse of a child or teen, whether it's occurred in person or online, visit childhelp.org. And of course, this is where you can go and see what Adam's story says right here. It's not like he wore a sign saying, I'm a sexual predator. He was that cool uncle. Adam had always enjoyed spending time with his uncle and would often look forward to sleepovers when they could have extended time together. On one of these occasions, when he was 14, their normal activities turned abusive. He was confused by his uncle's actions. Nothing like this has happened before. For the next 4 years, Adam continued to struggle both with the physical abuse and the emotional pain it brought him. I took steps to prevent the pain, but a part of me thought that's how he loved me. Perpetrators of child sexual abuse will often use grooming tactics like gift giving, spending alone time, and building age inappropriate relationships with children and teens to keep them silent about the abuse. In Adam's case, it was a chance to sneak cigarettes and attend expensive sporting events. The abuse had serious effects on Adam's life, including weight gain, an inability to maintain relationships, and suicidal thoughts. The effects of sexual violence can be challenging to deal with, but with the right support, they can be managed. They can be particularly challenging for men and boys who face unique challenges due to social norms about masculinity. Adam also recalls questioning his own sexuality after the assaults. Many male survivors experience this uncertainty and doubt after sexual violence, especially if they experienced an erection or ejaculation during the assault. Physiological responses like an erection are involuntary, meaning the survivor has no control over them. These physical signs are not an invitation for unwanted sexual activity and in no way condone an assault. Thank you. That's not bad to be vigilant. We're not going to turn our backs when we see something. Adam did not report the assault or tell anyone from his family. He feared that he wouldn't be believed and that the truth would destroy his family. I think there's a stigma attached to it. If you're a man, you should be able to fend them off. If they said the same thing to the girls as you didn't want it, you could have got away. Yeah, right. Years later, Adam finally opened up to his girlfriend who encouraged him to talk to his parents. The ironic thing that I opened up to my parents on October the 8th, 2010, 10 years to the day of the last SA, they supported me unconditionally and distanced themselves from him. Today, Adam is currently as an archivist at the Diocese of the Armenian Church of America. He enjoys spending time with his girlfriend, going to sporting events, watching TV, reading, and just enjoying life. It wasn't easy to recover from the abuse, but Adam found that talking about what happened to a supportive network of friends and family helped him to heal. The experience I've had in the recovering from the abuse is that he did not win. I have not allowed myself to be defined by the abuse, which Adam is probably happily married to her now. Brian's story. I'm on this road to well-being. The fact that I keep taking each step makes me stronger. Brian Johns was repeatedly SA'd by a trusted older family member starting at the age of 5. The perpetrator used coercion, emotional abuse, and grooming to facilitate the abuse. As often happens in the case of child sexual abuse, Brian felt afraid to tell family and friends about the abuse because it's worried he would get in trouble or cause others to be angry. When I was younger, I didn't want anybody mad at me. I didn't want the abuser to be mad at me. Brian's parents soon learned of the abuse when his cousin, who was also being abused by the same family member, disclosed to the family. Brian's parents enrolled him in counseling but chose not to report the abuse to law enforcement. At the time, he was not ready to disclose the abuse, but as an adult, is grateful the disclosure happened early. I needed it to move forward and begin my healing process. After his family learned of the abuse, Brian remembers feeling ashamed and responsible for the emotions to those around him. He suggests that loved ones remember that it's okay to be angry when you learn that someone you care about has been SA'd, but it is vital to remember to put the survivor's emotions and needs first. Yes, you need to put their emotions first, or you're going to get entangled into some more. They're going to feel guilty that you're mad at him or you're mad at her. Don't get so caught up in your emotions that you forget about the person it happened to. When you put your own rage before their healing, a survivor can end up trying to manage your emotional welfare instead of focusing on their own. As many men and boys who are survivors of SA do, Brian faced a specific set of challenges, including self-blame, difficulty in relationships, and concerns about sexual orientation. I felt ashamed for years because not all of it I experienced was painful. When you're exposed to such sexual activity in your formative years, it complicates so many things. Brian has found writing about his story to be helpful in his healing process and recently published his memoir, Ant in an Eggshell. Y'all should check that out. Got a book out there. Ant in an Eggshell, The Fragile Fortitude of a Black Man, in which he touches on the themes of sexual abuse, self-esteem, and relationships. Black men have the stigma attached to us to be strong, unmoving, and unfeeling. When Brian isn't writing, he works as a substitute teacher and finds joy in immersing himself in art. He is a singer and focuses on soul music as well as other genres. Expressing myself artistically is what I love to do. I sing, I write, I act. It's very cathartic for me. If anything comes from this, I want young black men who are not paid attention to or any survivor to know that they are not alone. Wow. Here's Gail's story. Telling your story will be the beginning of your healing. You will see light at the end of the tunnel. Gail Gardner is a pastoral counselor, advocate, listener, writer, and survivor of sexual violence. She says she experienced child sex abuse by family members starting at age 5. The grooming was the most devastating part of it. I was so young when it started. Psychologically, it had a huge effect on my personality and how I viewed myself. Gail didn't feel that she could talk about what happened to her and turned to unhealthy coping mechanisms such as drugs and alcohol. That happens to a lot of people. You try to drown it out. You try to find ways where you don't feel the pain, where you don't remember. She joined a church which provided the support and community she was seeking and soon started her education to become a minister. It was during this period that Gail's home was broken into and she survived rape. Oh man, she even got raped. I was a single parent. My 9-year-old son and I were asleep. Oh boy, her 9-year-old son and her were asleep in her bed when the perpetrator broke in. Wow. Wow. I wonder why does this keep happening to me? Gail called the police and was taken to the hospital to get a sexual assault forensic exam, also known as a rape kit. It was archaic. I was an African American woman who had been raped, which was not necessarily taken seriously at that time. I was taken to a bare hospital room that only had a tray of metal instruments in it. All my clothes were taken away, and I was only given a sheet to wear. It was freezing cold. They left me in there by myself for so long, just waiting. It was horrible. When the nurse finally came in, she started the exam without saying a word to me. The experience was awful. It's like being raped all over again. Gail told some members of her church community what had happened and was met with unsupportive response. They did not support her. The church did not support her either. Look at that, y'all. People I had trusted said hurtful things to me. They told me to get over it. Told me that I wanted it. They treated me like I had a disease. Do what? They told her she wanted it? Do y'all see that? We all know that we hear get over it pretty often. Gail knew she needed to talk to someone but couldn't find any resources in her area. At the time, there was no way to get help. There was no RAIN, no local sexual assault service providers, no one to help me at all. I wanted to go to counseling, but as a single parent, I couldn't afford it. I just had to push my way through in order to survive. For decades, Gail hadn't told her mother about the abuse, but after the second incident of sexual violence, she knew she needed to talk about the childhood abuse in order to start healing from both experiences. Her mother and the rest of the family reacted in a supportive way. Gail found out that talking about her own experiences freed others to talk about abuse they had endured and led the family to have important and overdue conversations. People will say, what happens in this house stays in this house. But by silencing survivors in that way, you pass the trauma on to the next generation. For Gail, supporting and advocating for other survivors has been the most important aspect of her healing. She got her GED, an undergraduate degree, then went on to receive a master's degree in pastoral counseling, as well as a master's degree in education. Good going, y'all. So far, the three stories that we read is wonderful how what they did with their life and they turned it around. Not only is she passionate about supporting survivors, but she is on a mission to educate parents, teachers, and anyone who works with children about the warning signs of child sexual abuse. People need to be informed. They need to know how to recognize sexual abuse and how to support someone who's gone through it. Gail has been involved in the advocacy efforts for the Violence Against Women Act, which is essential to providing survivors with the resources they need. Though she is outspoken in supporting critical policy initiatives, she sees grassroots efforts to educate Americans about sexual violence as the most direct path to ending it. We need communities to be talking about this in churches, schools, and families. One of the phrases Gail says she often hears from survivors is, there was no one there for me. After experiencing both supportive and unsupportive reactions to what happened to her, Gail knows how much of a difference it can make when someone listens and believes you. How do you support a survivor? You show empathy and compassion? I should have not did a question mark. I did a question mark. You show empathy and compassion. Even if you can't identify with what happened to them, just imagine you can and be there with them as they tell their story. She has also found connections between her work as a bereavement counselor and with survivors of sexual violence. In my bereavement counseling, many people, when they are grieving the loss of a loved one, will bring up with me that they experienced child sexual abuse. They start talking about it because it's the first time someone has listened to them. Wow. When a child is sexually abused, there is a part of their childhood that has been taken from them. To heal from this, it needs to be recognized as a kind of loss, a kind of grieving. While working on her memoir, Gail went to the police department to get her records and saw that her cold case from 31 years ago had been reopened. They think they found enough information to catch him. Maybe I'll see justice after all. If you're allowed to talk, you're allowed to heal. Every day I get up and I know I am healing. Amen. And here's Pierre's story. This is with Espanol, so he is Hispanic, I guess. Pierre Chambers is a leader in his church. He is a musician, a father, and survivor of child sexual abuse. He experienced child sexual abuse between the ages of 12 and 15. The perpetrator was a youth pastor at his church, a close family friend. As a choir director, the perpetrator was also a charismatic and important leader in the church. My parents were very involved in the Black Pentecostal church community. My dad was a deacon and my mom led the Sunday school. So I was at church almost every day of the week, here it says. I spent a lot of time with the youth pastor. He was like a big brother to me. He would pick me up for school and church. His wife would cook me dinner. My parents trusted him completely. The youth pastor gave Pierre gifts, special attention, and privileges for spending time with him one on one. From a young age, Pierre was dedicated to the church and knew he wanted to learn more and get more involved. So he thought these special privileges were just part of learning about the church and shadowing his mentor. Excuse me. He was someone who was always on my side. When I would get in trouble with my parents, he would tell them that I should come over to his house for the night. My parents could sense something was off. It seemed odd that I was spending so much time alone with an adult. They even asked me about it, but I told them that everything was fine. I now realized that this was all an effect agreement. Pierre didn't want to say anything because he was worried he'd get in trouble or cause an issue in his family or the church, but eventually he was prompted to tell his parents when preparing to attend a weekend retreat with a youth pastor. Pierre's dad noticed that something was off and asked him about it. That's when I told him my parents said I was in a relationship with a youth pastor, and they said, no, that is not a relationship. That's child abuse. His parents took him to the hospital to get a sexual assault forensic exam. I can't remember anything about the exam. I know that people say that they are re traumatizing, but for me, the way that manifested is I had no recollection of it. Pierre's parents reported the abuse and began a long process of attending hearings. The perpetrator pled guilty to 7 counts, 7 of 50 counts of felony childhood sexual abuse, and was sentenced to 6 years in state prison. Only six? How many other kids did he mess with too? We've all heard about child sexual abuse in the Catholic Church, so through my story, I want to shed light on how this also happens in other faith communities. With Pierre, he said it all comes down to trust. I had profound trust in the church. It was the closest I could ever be to God. But that absolute trust can be broken and manipulated by bad individuals. Because of his own experience, Pierre is now passionate about making sure that parents, educators, and everyone interacting with children or teens are familiar with warning signs of sexual abuse. I'm getting a phone call, but that person's just going to have to wait. Keep an open line of communication with your kids. They need to know they can tell you if something happens. More important, trust your gut when you see something that seems off. You have the ability to change a child's life if you step up and say something. Writing, spending time in his community and with his faith mentors, and being a father have all been important parts of Pierre's healing process. Pierre is the author of a memoir and account of the abuse. I trusted you. He and writer director Lee Davis are currently working together to create a film based on this story. The sexual abuse isn't talked about in many black communities and church communities. That's why I share my story, so that someone else out there knows they aren't alone. So let's go to this part about grooming, y'all. This is also with nspcc.org in the UK. Finding out your child has been groomed can be distressing and you might not know what to do. We're here to support you and have advice to help you keep children and young people safe. What is grooming? Grooming is when someone builds a relationship, trust, and emotional connection with a child or young person so they can manipulate, exploit, and abuse them. Not necessarily just children, but adults as well, as we have seen. Children and young people who are groomed can be sexually abused, exploited, or trafficked. Anybody can be a groomer, no matter the age, gender, or race. Grooming can take place over a short or long period of time, from weeks to years. Groomers may also build a relationship with a young person's family or friends to make them seem trustworthy or authoritative. Now, here's the types of grooming. Can y'all see this okay? Children and young people can be groomed online, in person, or both, by a stranger or someone they know. This can be a family member, a friend, or someone who has targeted them, like a teacher, faith group leader, or sports coach. When a child is groomed online, groomers may hide who they are by sending photos or videos of other people. Trying to get that to show up where I can see. Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad you can. They might target one child online or contact lots of children very quickly and wait for them to respond. The relationship a groomer builds can take different forms. This could be a romantic relationship as a mentor, an authority figure, a dominant and persistent figure. A groomer can use the same sites, games, and apps as young people, spending time learning about a young person's interests and use this to build a relationship with them. Children can be groomed online through social media networks, text messages and messaging apps like WhatsApp, email, text voice and video chats, and forums, games, and apps. And the online gaming community is very bad about that as well. Like it says, whether online or in person, groomers can use tactics like pretending to be younger, giving advice or showing understanding, buying gifts, giving attention, taking them on trips, outings, or holidays. Groomers might also try and isolate children from their friends and family, making them feel dependent on them and giving them groomer power and control over them. They might use blackmail to make a child feel guilt and shame or introduce the idea of secrets to control, frighten, and intimidate. It's important to remember that children and young people may not understand they've been groomed. They may have complicated feelings like loyalty, admiration, love, as well as fear, distress, and confusion. I know I did. I love my parents, and even though there was bad times, I still had a complicated feeling of loyalty and admiration. Because he gave me a roof over my head and food to eat. Signs of grooming. It can be difficult to tell if a child is being groomed. The signs aren't always obvious and may be hidden. Older children might behave in a way that seems to be normal teenage behavior. masking underlying problems. Some of the signs you might see include being very secretive about how they're spending their time, including when online, having an older boyfriend or girlfriend, having money or new things like clothes and mobile phones that they can't or won't explain, underage drinking or drug taking, spending more or less time online or on their devices, being upset, withdrawn, or distressed, sexualized behavior, language, or an understanding of sex that's not appropriate for their age, spending more time away from home or going missing for periods of time. A child is unlikely to know they've been groomed. They might be worried or confused and less likely to speak to an adult they trust. If you're worried about a child and want to talk to them, we have advice on having difficult conversations. If a child reveals abuse, if a child talks to you about grooming, it's important too. You listen carefully to what they're saying. Listen, that don't mean sometimes we want to be talking and talking and talking, and we're not actually listening to what the child is saying. Let them know they've done the right thing by telling you. Tell them it's not their fault. Say you'll take them seriously. Don't confront the alleged abuser. Explain what you'll do next. Report what the child has told you as soon as possible. The effects of grooming. Grooming can have both short and long-term effects. The impact of grooming can last a lifetime, no matter whether it happened in person, online, or both. A child or young person might have difficulty sleeping, be anxious, or struggle to concentrate or cope with schoolwork. They may have become withdrawn, uncommunicative, and angry or upset. Children, young people, and adults may live with. Well, I want to say that I agree with that. They said still have long term effects. I still have difficulty sleeping. Still do. Children, young people, and adults may live with anxiety and depression, eating disorders, difficulty coping with stress, post traumatic stress, self harm, suicidal thoughts, sexually transmitted infections, pregnancy, feelings of shame and guilt, drug and alcohol problems, relationship problems with family, friends, and partners. Our services can support children and young people who have experienced grooming to help them move on and receive the care they need. Who's at risk? Any child is at risk of being groomed, and it's important to remember that both boys and girls can be groomed. Children who are groomed online could be abused by someone they know. They could also be abused by someone who commits a one off act or a stranger who builds a relationship with them. Some children are more at risk of grooming, particularly those who are vulnerable. Children in care with disabilities or who are neglected can be targeted by groomers. Groomers will exploit any vulnerability to increase the likelihood of a child or young person will become dependent on them and less likely to speak out. Report grooming. CEOP make reporting online grooming easy. Whether you're a parent, carer, worried adult, or young person, you can make CEOP report online. You can make a report. You can also contact your local child protection services or the police to report your concerns about any type of grooming, whether it's happening online, in person, or both. It's important to remember that it's against the law to make or share images of child abuse. If you see a video or photo that shows a child being abused, don't comment. like or share. Instead, you can report it to the website it's on, to the police, or contact us and we'll report it to the police for you. Worried about how to support a young person who has a sexual image or video of themselves shared online? If they're under 18, they can use Childline and the Internet Watch Foundation's discreet report remove tool to see if it can be taken down. Young people can get support from Childline throughout the process. I'm going to put this comment again in where this is at. I need to put the link in the StreamYard. Okay. It's okay. And I will put make a banner, sorry. I'll create a banner right here. Go at the bottom. Here's ticket at the bottom down there. That's where you could go to that website that's scrolling across the bottom where you can report removal tool to see if it can be taken down. You're worried about county lines and criminal exploitation? You can take steps to keep children and young people safe. Call 999 if the child is at immediate risk, or call 101 if you think a crime has been committed. Call Crime Stoppers anonymously or go online. Contact your local child protective services. You can find the contact details on the website for the local authority the child lives in. It says for parents and carers, finding out your child has been groomed and exploited can be frightening and distressing, but there's help for you and your family. PACE works with parents and carers of children who are at risk of sexual exploitation. You can call them for confidential help and advice or fill in their online form. I'm going to scroll back up to, I went too far. See if I see that link again. Having difficult conversations. We've been on the receiving end of a difficult conversation, but that doesn't make it any easier when you have to have one with your child. You might need to have a conversation where you have to break some bad news, have to ask something you're worried about, ask about topics you find uncomfortable, like sex or drugs. Ask your child if they're worried or scared by something. Ask your child about a new behavior or anything else you will feel will be difficult to bring up. Whatever the subject or however other child you're talking to, there are lots of ways to make it easier for both of you. We have advice to help you decide how to talk to your child in a way that's age appropriate and supportive. However, you know your child best to trust your judgment about what will work for your family best. Or starting a difficult chat, whatever it is you want to discuss, it's important to think about where and how to talk to children so the children will listen. Number one, there's no telling how long the conversation is going to last. So the first thing to consider is where and when you're going to start it. For example, if you start in the evening when you're tired, your child or children might not be able to concentrate. Number two, if you're talking to just one child about something, consider how private the time and place are. It might work best to have it at a time when brothers and sisters aren't around to interrupt. Three, it'd be good to have it in a relaxed and neutral place, like on a walk, or in a car. You could also ask other parents, how they created the right situation to talk about difficult topics in the past and see it could work for them too. I am going to give here is where it's listening is important too. If you're worried or nervous about a conversation, it's easy to forget that it should be going two ways. It's important to show that you are also listening to them and value what they're telling you. We have some tips to help you. Start by asking questions that just don't have a yes and no answer. That gives your child a chance to tell you what they think. Give them as long as they need to answer without interrupting. They may be nervous or still working out what they really think, and that could take a little time. Let your child ask you questions too. Be honest with them about how you feel about certain subjects and let them know about things that have happened to you in the past. Let them know that they can trust you to keep their confidence and that you want them to always feel they can talk to you, other people they trust, or organizations like Childline when anything is worrying them. Thank you. Sometimes your child might actually come to talk to you about a concern. It may be that they want to talk to you about a friend who's depressed or frightened because of bullying. Or it could be about something they've done themselves, like sexting or drinking, trying alcohol. It's probably taken a lot of courage to even mention it to you, so you need to make them feel as comfortable as possible about continuing the conversation. Because the worst you can do is get them to shut up when they don't feel like they can talk to you about the problem. They'll start not trusting you, and you want them to be able to trust you and to come to you when they have a problem. If it's not the right time or place, agree when and where you're going to talk. Begin by reassuring your child that they can tell you anything they need to, and you won't blame them in any way. Listen carefully to what they have to say. If you don't understand, then be honest and ask them to explain. Above all, let them say everything they want to say before you give any opinions or advice. It's okay to ask your child what they'd like you to do about the situation, but it could be something where you can't do anything at all. For example, if they're grieving over her death, what you could always do is reassure and support, starting with a big hug. If there's anything you can do, and if you plan to do, let your child know. Otherwise, they may feel like you're going behind their back and they should never have told you in the first place. Talking about life changing topics, unfortunately, things do happen that can turn your lives upside down. Talking with your child about separation, illness, death, or other life changing topics might be emotional and distressing for both of you. Having difficult conversations is hard, but if you handle it well, it can bring you and your child closer together and help you to understand each other. Before starting a conversation, it can help to think about when and where to have the conversation. Choose somewhere that will be comfortable for you both with no interruptions. If you have children at different ages, will you speak to them together or separately? Who else should you tell before your child so that they can be ready to give emotional support? Think about the sorts of questions your child's likely to ask you so you can have the answers ready. When the time comes to break the news, remember to explain everything slowly in words that your child will easily understand. It's also important to make sure they know that they're not responsible or to blame in any way for what you're telling them. I got a joke that I had read a long time ago, and that's a prime example. And it was based on, it was a Reader's Digest years ago, and it's life in these United States. With his grandmother was surprised when her grandson, who spent the night with her, made her a cup of coffee. So she smiled at him. He was like 5 or 6 years old. And she was so pleased, and she went ahead, even though it was the worst cup of coffee she ever drank. She went ahead and started drinking it. Okay, when she drank some and drank a little bit more. Then all of a sudden she saw green, the Green Army Man sticking out of the coffee cup. And she goes, "Hey, how come you got these army men in my cup?" It's like, "Grandma, just like the commercials say, the best part of waking up is soldiers in your cup." So that's a little bit of, we think that when a kid watches TV, they see what we see, but instead they don't understand what soldiers is. They understand what soldiers are. They're toy soldiers. They understand that kind of stuff, but they don't understand. They understand coffee maybe, but when it says soldiers, they might not understand the gist of it like we do. That's just a prime example. But that's always touched my heart. Okay, here's put protection first in this holiday season. During the holidays, we spend lots of time and money attempting to create magical experiences for our children. We hang decorations, bake cookies, and sing songs. We take great care in the gifts we purchase, looking for ones that marry education and fun, and hoping the thrill will last for all year long. But how well do we monitor our children's social experiences during the holidays? The adults that surround and create the protective environments that keep them safe, no matter the time of year. This year, make a point to revisit your family child protective protection plans. Here are five tips to get you started. Sorry, I'm a little tongue tied today. Please forgive me. Be prepared to enforce your child's boundaries. The holidays can be stressful when interacting with family or friends who don't know your family's child safety policies. Aunt June will probably want a hug from little Susie when she sees her, but remind her that it's up to Susie to decide if she'd like to show affection and how. It's not personal, it's just how things are. Take this opportunity to remind your kids that they should never feel like they have to give in to pressure to show affection, no matter who the person asking for it might be. This is also a great time to remind children that if they ever feel uncomfortable, they should let you know so you can help. Number two, don't let household rules get thrown out in the midst of holiday madness. Day to day schedules can be very different during the holidays. Kids are out of school for long stretches. Family members are visiting, and throughout it all, you need to decide which rules remain in place and which rules can flex. Have a no closed doors policy. Don't let an influx of guests change the rules in your home. Kindly educate them on the rules and move on. Strive to create normalcy in the midst of chaos, and don't let your protective rules fall by the wayside. Means keep your kids safe at all costs, regardless. Your child is very important. Keep them safe. Number three, remember that it's okay to say no. Protect your sanity by giving yourself permission to say no. You can't do everything, no one can. So decide what is most important to you and make those things a priority. Let the rest go. Do you attend the same gatherings or do you create a new tradition? Do you opt out to do your own thing if it's the best interest of your child or family? For those with toxic family environments, saying no can be a vital part of keeping stress low during the holiday season. Oh, I did. I did away with the people that's toxic in my family. I don't get around them. I don't talk to them on the phone, anything. Or be prepared to speak up. You may find yourself in a situation where you can intervene on behalf of a child, yours or someone else's, who might find themselves in situations where they appear to be uncomfortable or uncertain of expectations. Uncle Johnny may think it's fun to tickle, but if Susie clearly doesn't like it, you can and should say something. Be brave and know that even if you risk hurting feelings, it's more important to put the child and their protection first. Number 5, know where your kids are and who they're with, even in a family environment. Even if you know all the family members are around, you don't know where your kids are, go find them. Always, always, always know where your kids are. The adults might be in the kitchen or grouped around the dining room table while the kids are off playing. Don't assume that they're in a safe place. Require them to play in open areas where they can play, where play can be observed. Your children may be playing with others they see only a few times a year, so guidance may be required. Provide careful supervision to ensure a safe, positive holiday experience for all. And it says, there comes a time in your growth when you start making choices from a very different place. And if a choice lines up so that it supports truth, health, happiness, wisdom, and love, it's the right choice. I want to thank y'all for coming. I appreciate y'all. I hope this has helped somewhat bringing this into the limelight, different avenues, different aspects of grooming, different advice on speaking to your children. Don't lose hope. Be the child's voice. Thank you so much. God bless y'all. Thank you, everyone who attended, Jackie, our bucket list, and anyone else who's listening. I appreciate you. Please hit the thumbs up. And God bless y'all. And thank you.